It's a tragedy what's happened.
Can you tell us about the meal that you cooked?
Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel, Leilani of Barbados. Today we're going to talk a little bit about reconciliation. It might be a cautionary tale for the royal family who might be considering a reconciliation with the Harkles. But today I'm talking about Aaron Patterson and the death cap mushroom trial out of Australia. You might know that I've been following this trial for about 2 years, from the time that Aaron Patterson was a person of interest to now her being convicted on all 4 charges, 3 of them murder and the 4th one attempted murder. Yes, one of her victims survived and testified. So did she. This was a crazy trial. It lasted 11 weeks, 6 days of deliberation to finally reach this verdict. So let's get into it. Now, the first time we saw Aaron Patterson was when she stood outside her car and did a very Meghan Markle coded 1 tear left eye.
1 tear left eye, go. Give me 3.
Can you tell us about the meal that you cooked?
Where she claimed that she was devastated that her relatives who she loved so much were in hospital, perishing.
Devastated by what's happened, by the loss of Don. Don is still in hospital. The loss of Ian and Heather and Gail. They were some of the best people that I've ever met.
Just on the face of that behavior, I found her very suspicious. Fast forward to now, she still seems very guilty. In fact, she was declared guilty. But I want to talk about the absurdity of some of the things that she did. I actually took a long time to do this video because it really affected me how much loss there was in this trial. So let's start out with what they don't talk about in the trial, which is motive. Erin Patterson was a very wealthy woman and she tried to pay her husband to stay with her. She tried everything. She inherited a lot of money from not only her grandmother, her mother, but also her aunt. I mean, commercial property, residential property, and cash money. And this man and her had been separated since 2015, yet she put his name on many of these properties. She also loaned out $400,000 at a time to some of his family members. I mean, she was doing everything she could to keep in his good graces. She said she put his name on these properties, in fact, because she wanted to, in the future, when they are back together, not have the hassle of transferring his name. This time, this man has no desire to be with her. He was on a completely different trajectory. He liked to travel. He was hitting the road jack. She tried to go along with it in their marriage for a time, but once she had her children and she wanted to settle down and have her house and home, and he still wanted to travel, she couldn't really get along with him. And it was a very tumultuous relationship. So it's no surprise that they couldn't come to a reconciliation within their marriage. So what she did was instead, she tried to use his parents as a mediator to convince him to be with her again. Simon Patterson's family is very religious. In fact, one of the victims is a pastor, his uncle. His family told her, why don't you go ahead and pray about it? And that sent her on a rage. She was like, well, that's not good enough. And what prompted her to get them involved really was that Simon started declaring himself single. Although they were separated the whole time, he had never really declared himself officially on documents as single. Once he did that, that's when she went to them, by the way. So she was really trying to get him to pretend that he's still with her. I have no idea why anybody would want a man that doesn't want them, but there you go. So that's what prompted the anger. And when they said they cannot help him to continue to keep up this facade that they are together, that's when she lost it. She was on her little Facebook group on social media sending messages about how much she hated them. And that was a big part of the incriminating evidence against her. I think in these times nowadays, we are finding that social media metadata, messages you send through forums and groups, things that you say is being used against you in court afterwards. Okay, this is what's happening now. And that is what happened to her. She started going on her Facebook forums, which by the way were true crime forums. So I mean, we're talking about a woman who's angry and also talking about crimes and talking about her anger and then also talking about mushrooms that are poisonous. So we have a combination of things here that looks very, for lack of a better word, toxic. There is something wrong with platforms that allow people to speak this way and show their anger and show their rage, and then it's only used later on when something happens. Case in point, Stephen McCullough, man charged with NI murder, faked live stream to provide alibi. A Northern Ireland man allegedly faked live video game broadcasts on a YouTube channel to create an alibi while he stabbed a woman to death, a court has heard.
Well, because this streaming software is kind of up the left, it means I can't check the live chat, which is a real shame. So, by all means, talk amongst yourselves.
There he is doing his usual, drinking online, making threats, pretending that he is live streaming whilst he's actually recorded this. So he set this as a premiere. Whilst the footage was rolling, he went and followed through on his threats. This is a CCTV camera footage of him arriving at his victim's house. Stephen McCullough had been drinking online, threatening this lady. She was a young, pregnant woman about to be a mother. And by the way, it should be noted that in criminal law, voluntary intoxication is not a valid excuse for committing a crime, including threatening people. His fake alibi almost worked. It was told that the defendant was initially arrested in the wake of the murder, but then ruled out as a suspect on the basis of the alleged live stream alibi. However, a senior detective told the court that an extensive technical examination of his devices by cyber experts has indicated the footage was pre-recorded and played out as if it was live. And the detective said that Mr. McCullough acknowledged that he was not live streaming on the night of the murder, but instead he was drinking on his own in his house and fell asleep. Guys, I'm sorry that you're getting two cases for the price of one, but I think this case of McCullough, which is ongoing and we will be watching it very carefully in the next few months, but I think this case reflects on Aaron Parsons' case because it shows that when you F around online, you will find out, and that online threats should be taken seriously. If someone's acting unhinged, they probably need to be taken off the platform for their own safety and the safety of others, because these platforms fuel these people. That's my whole point. But anyway, back to her. So these messages were on her phone. She kept giving police different phones, girl. She was juggling SIM cards like she was a clown in the circus. Well, SIM card this, SIM card that phone. She reset the phone, factory resets, hard resets on the phone so that it wiped out all the information. They had to go through a lot to find the information that they finally did find, and found that what? She was looking for death cap mushrooms. She was foraging for them, running to the places that they were located in based on websites that she was searching, which told her death cap mushrooms are located in this area. Beware, right? She went and bewared over to those places and grabbed those mushrooms real quick. And those are the things she was trying to hide. What I didn't like about her, because I really was thinking she was a good mother based on everything they were saying about her. But when she said that it was probably her son that was looking, I mean, this is a teenage boy, that he was probably looking up those websites that showed where the mushrooms were, that's when I lost respect for her as a mother, because at what point and for what reason would you throw your own son under the bus? I mean, I guess because he's a minor, so maybe his penalties would be less. Look, I don't know, but let's set the scene of how these people even got to this place to get poisoned. Erin has an estranged relationship with not only her husband, but also her in-laws. They've never been to her house, the in-laws. Her husband hardly seems to see the children, although he has made the effort to come over and eat her food. After doing so, he was poisoned 3 or 4 times. The last time he was poisoned by her food, he was put into an induced coma for 2 to 3 weeks. So it would not surprise you that although he was invited to this fatal lunch, he declined the invitation, which, by the way, also upset her. And she wrote some very nasty messages to him about why wasn't he coming? He may never see her again if he doesn't come this time, and all this foolishness. But she obviously did have a plan to murderation him at this luncheon. So what she does is she lies to her in-laws to get them to the luncheon, saying that she has some very important news to share with them. Spoiler alert. Once they get to the luncheon, she will then lie and say that she has cancer and she wants to talk to them about it because they may have to look after the children while she is getting her surgery on her ovarian cancer. What I don't understand is how Simon, her ex, did not say to his parents, his aunt and uncle also, I've been poisoned 3 or 4 times by her food, so best not have lunch there. I just don't understand. That's like a missing link that I never understood in the case when I followed it. Like, where was that explanation? Why did he let his family even go there in the first place? So Erin moseys her way on over to the church where she usually attended services virtually. She decides to show up in the flesh and say to them, I need you to come over. This is a thing that's happening. You know, it's something very important. It's an adult conversation. The children aren't going to be there, but anyhow, can you please come? And apparently, according to Ian Wilkinson's evidence, and he is the survivor, he said that they were excited about going to her house. How? Excited? Honestly, let me tell you what I think of these people, okay? I think these people are very lovely people, very Christian people. I don't think they believe anyone is evil in this world. They have a little bit of naivete about them. They never thought about the fact that this woman might be evil. Of course, she's saying that she's not well, which is a complete lie, by the way. She has no cancer. She has nothing like that. And as I'm looking at all this footage, I'm remembering 2 years back, she had withdrawn all of her savings accounts and has been walking around with a suitcase. She was a flight risk at this point, and they did not arrest her till November. This happened in July, and they did not arrest her until November. But anyway, let's get back to the story. Leading up to lunch, they're like, everything okay? How you doing? And she's like, well, you know, I'll talk about it when you get here, because you just need to get here first. I don't know why I would have pressured her to tell me over the phone. I would have been like, girl, I cannot take the suspense. What is it? And then when she tells me, and then Simon tells me that she's a poisoner, I'd have been like, okay, thanks a lot, not coming to the lunch. What are we doing here? Okay, sorry, let me get back on track. For whatever reason, they end up coming to the lunch. And when they come to the lunch, they have never been to her house before. And like I said, this woman has money. She has a lovely house, a lovely kitchen, where she poisons people out of. She has a lovely pantry where she stores the poison. And they're kind of looking around the kitchen and the pantry, and apparently she was very cagey about it. She didn't want them in the kitchen. She didn't want them in the pantry. And he noticed that. Anyway, they all sit down for lunch and she serves them herself. Now, I remember when she was first interrogated, she had said that they chose their own portions, but that's just a lie. She told a lot of lies. Be careful of liars. She does beef Wellington in a way that I've never seen it done. It's in individual little logs, like pasties is what they're saying. I've always wanted to make beef Wellington, but I saw a chef friend of mine make it once, girl, and I was like, it looks like just a lot of effort with the pastry, with the mushroom, the gravy, like the perfect, it's all too much. It's more like baking to me, and I don't bake, I cook. Anyways, she does them individual ones. Why? Of course, because her little log did not have poison in it. She gave them 4 gray plates for the 2 couples, and she took a orangey yellow plate that was slightly smaller for herself. She also plated up some crushed potato, as we say in Barbados, or mashed potato, and green beans. The empty place setting here is supposed to be for Simon Patterson. Although he canceled the night before, I guess she left the place setting there to let his family know that he was meant to come. But I guess he missed out because those who did attend loved the meal. They ate it down. In fact, Donnie, who is the father of her ex, had his portion and half of his wife's portion. That's how good it tasted. So she sat there and she watched them eat, and she gave them her pity story about her fake cancer. Of course, they were very supportive, and they were saying, girl, I will be here for you and your children, which are also their grandchildren, and so on. And everything went well. The only thing is that they had to leave right after dessert. Dessert was an orange cake, by the way, which comes up in the trial. They had to go to another appointment. So unlike in the Caribbean, I said, she's lucky that she was not in the Caribbean, because in the Caribbean, people come for lunch and they don't leave till after dinner. We like to hang out. We like to chill. Some might say overstaying the welcome, but we don't care. But people just don't leave your house. So if it was a Caribbean household, and if it was in a Caribbean setting, I can guarantee you the effects of the poison would have kicked in before those people left, and she would not have known what to do with herself, girl. Anyway, though people left, they did see the children. The children were sent to the movies and to McDonald's for the duration of the lunch, because obviously she didn't want her children anywhere near this fatal poison. Imagine, you know how children are. Oh, let me have a bite of that. And then, okay, there's this little story here where Erin Patterson was so greedy that she ate the rest of the orange cake, then felt sick, then was making herself sick because she felt so gross and greedy. And that's how she is saying that she escaped the poison. The test results will show that there was never at any point this poison in her system. Simon Patterson, that's her ex-husband, ends up having to take all these people to hospital. She decides, okay, I've got the alarm. People are dropping down with the poison, so therefore I should also be feeling sick with the poison. So she runs herself to the hospital and says, me too. I know people are in here sick, me too. They say, okay, we're gonna run tests on you. The hospital knows now that the poison is from death cap mushrooms. So they're like, well, can we just run some tests on you? And she's like, you know something? I just remembered, I have some sheep to feed. and some dogs, and I don't know why I'm here. 5 minutes after coming to the hospital, she suddenly has to go. That's some new footage that we see as well of her trying to leave the hospital against hospital instructions. There's hospital staff here trying to stop her from leaving, and even further to this, the doctor has to end up calling the police to track her down.
I have a concern regarding a patient that presented here earlier but has left the building and is potentially exposed to a fatal toxin from mushroom poisoning. What's her name? So the last name is Patterson. The nurse informed me that she had discharged herself against medical advice. She was only here for 5 minutes.
Now you might be wondering, why on earth would Erin Patterson take the risk of leaving this hospital? Well, there was something on her mind besides her sheep and her dogs. The dehydrator! The dehydrator was on her mind! At least it was on her mind after she spoke with her ex, Simon Patterson. Now remember, Simon Patterson is at the hospital seeing to his relatives. And whilst he's there, he decides to give Erin a call. So he calls her and he's like, Erin, I mean to say, people are dropping down after eating your food. Is there anything you have to say about that? And she apparently didn't say anything about them. She was like, oh, how are you though? Oh, Simon, but how are you, honey? You remember me? I was married to you. Do you miss me? She really didn't seem concerned about these in-laws dropping down, and he's calling her to tell her they're perishing, they're dying. Simon Patterson denies this conversation. But she says that during that phone call, she starts talking to him about mushrooms. Hi, how are you doing, Simon? Are you good? Do you know about mushrooms? Like, I just love mushrooms. I actually bought a dehydrator for my mushrooms. And he was like, oh, did you really? That's so interesting. You bought a dehydrator. And she's like, yeah, to dehydrate them. And then I can blend them up. And they start talking about cooking mushrooms. And he says, the dehydrator, though, did you use that to kill my parents? And she's like, that triggered her, and she felt like he was going to accuse her of this thing. And so she ran to the tip, which is what in Australia they call a dump, and she dumps the dehydrator, which is all captured on CCTV. The police then retrieved the dehydrator and found her fingerprints on it and traces of the death cap mushrooms. There's some driving around. There's her pretending that she had to stop on the road at a petrol station because she's sick, you know. She has the runs, the tummy runs. But there's only 9 seconds that she spends in the petrol station. CCTV also covers that. So I don't know if that was the quickest diarrhea ever had in anybody's history, or if she didn't wipe, or if she didn't wash her hands, girl. But 9 seconds does not qualify that as a bathroom stop. So she gets back in the car and drives around again. Anyway, she comes back to hospital eventually, where they run tests on her, find no poison in her system. In that time, the police had been called to search her house and retrieve her electronic devices, which, as I said, she had tampered with. Yeah, because the police allowed Erin Patterson to go to the next room because she had to make arrangements for her children. And that's when she switched up all the SIM cards and gave this dummy phone to this gentleman. They went through her rubbish and were able to retrieve this beef Wellington sample. They test it and they find the poisonous mushroom in there. Initially, she was saying there's no way that she was foraging mushrooms. She bought the mushrooms from the supermarket, which was called Safeway, which other people are calling Woolworth. I think there was a name change in Australia and some people stick with the old name. Anyway, I'm getting into all the Australian lore. I love it. Oh, but then she also purchased it from an Asian grocer. And I remember the Australian Mushroom Farmers Association of the world came out against her. And they were very upset with Erin for lying about the fact that mushrooms, poisonous mushrooms, could possibly reach the marketplace. So she started changing her story. It wasn't from the farmers markets and stuff like that. She admits, I did forage, but not on the days you said, and not in the places where the death cap were, but I did forage mushrooms at some point and put them in the same dehydrator with the other normal mushrooms and also in the container with the other. And it became a whole convoluted thing of the mushrooms are contaminated by other mushrooms that she did not mean. Because remember, she's trying to deny intent. She's trying to show that it was an accident. Now let's get down to the brass tacks, the fake cancer. People find that extremely upsetting, that she would lure people to this lunch. They didn't have a choice as to whether to come to this lunch because she's trying to say that she's dying. Why, Erin Patterson, did you tell this lie about cancer? Erin Patterson says it's because she wanted to get skinnier. She was like, I wanted to have weight loss surgery, but I didn't want them to know that. I just wanted to come out like brand new BBL Drizzy. BBL Drizzy. Look at me. and not let them know what I was really going for, because it's so vain to want that kind of surgery. And they would want to look after my children based on a lie of me having cancer more than me having a BBL or lipo or whatever. So my feeling is like, if you want somebody to look after your children, I think you have to be honest with them. Actually, scratch that. If you want people to do you a favor, you have to be honest with them. But honesty is clearly not a word in Patterson's vocabulary, because the lipo appointment was a lie too. Patterson told the court last week that she had a pre-assessment booking for gastric bypass surgery scheduled at Enrich Clinic in September 2023. But Rogers said to Patterson on Tuesday that Enrich was a cosmetic dermatology clinic and did not offer gastric bypass surgery. Patterson said she was puzzled that was the case. In what way, Rogers asked. Well, I had an appointment with them, and that's my memory of what the appointment was for, so that's why I'm puzzled. By the way, she canceled that appointment too, so I don't know what she was thinking. Because although the poisoning happened in July 2023, Erin Patterson was not arrested until November 2023, so she could have kept that appointment to prove her story. Indeed, I'd say Erin Patterson taking the stand was a bad idea. She only got caught up in more of her lies. Oh, and I'm a judge now. Sorry for the jump scare. But we are back in court. Erin Patterson is planning on appealing this decision. But we are back in court, or at least we will be, because Erin Patterson is planning on appealing this very learned decision. After all, she is facing life in prison, but that sentence won't be handed down until hopefully August. I want to send my thoughts and prayers out to everyone who is affected by this tragedy, especially Erin's children. I only wish Erin had put her ability to parent her children and be present in their lives above eliminating somebody else's parents. I will be following this appeal as well as the YouTuber Stephen McCullough's case that I mentioned earlier in this video. Hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up. You know it helps our algorithm, girl. I love you all so much, and you know that. Bye!
Bye.